Getting tectonic shifts right in the investment landscape is incredibly difficult. Oil is one of the pivotal elements to all of this that we need to get right. You need to make sure that you're on the right side of that trade. The Saudis are signaling that they believe effectively that the era of oil is coming to an end. Should we sit up and pay attention, or is this just talk?
Well, I think certainly perhaps an end of an era for them in terms of how they think about their own economy and how it's going to run. I think perhaps for the rest of the world, it's probably not necessarily as significant. We already know, I think, that we're in an era where $100 oil isn't going to be the future, so we're adapting to that. I think it's now seeing the consequences, the ripples across certainly the Middle East, of them starting to realize the implications for them, whereas I think the developed world probably has already come to that realization.
When you look at the impact on industries, though, we're going to be talking to Carlos Ghosn very shortly, the boss of Nissan Renault, making big investments into the electric vehicle. If that succeeds, then that is going to be one element to this story. You look at Tesla, you look at all of these kinds of industries and how the disruption is starting to manifest itself. It's pretty clear. You look back and you start to actually see this happening.
Well, I think where you're going to see the big differences is exactly this in terms of what are going to be the sources of energy, what's the change in the relative cost of energy. A lot of these renewable resource initiatives were started when you had oil at $100 and they seemed like they were economical. Now when it's at 40, it's going to be much more challenging for a lot of these companies to come up with a product that is going to be profitable for them when now you have the alternatives are not as expensive. So I think we've got these investments that were made years ago. They're going to have to be rethought and perhaps redirected so that they come out still profitable for the companies that have made them.
But you get it right. Like somebody makes a breakthrough in batteries, and the impact of that is going to be absolutely seismic. If Tesla can figure out how you take, I don't know how many families they're talking about taking off grid with their battery technology, you start to make that change, you start to have a huge impact. We're talking about Saudi Arabia, but it could be a utility company in the Midwest. It could be anything. And you start to really have to change your investment thesis.
Absolutely. And you think of what now, the parts, how much of the economies currently are dependent on oil. Now that's shrunk dramatically. So over the last 30 years now with the price initially increasing. But still, it's a huge part of any developed market economy. It's very important, and we haven't talked about this yet in terms of emerging markets. Where are they going to get their own growth now that they can't rely on high-cost commodity exports to China? So it is not just an oil story, it's a commodity story more broadly, and then it becomes an emerging market story. So yes, very, very significant.